This is the Trojan War lesson. It's the truth about the Trojan War, the history, the heroes, the battles, and the Greeks making that clever Trojan horse. This story is actually kind of like if you're on a team, you train, you get ready for the big game. It goes long, extra innings, overtime. You win. But then you expect good things to start happening, and they really don't. Things go wrong. There's no food, there's no parade, you forget your jersey, your trophy breaks, you get lost on the way home, and you feel like there's a letdown, like it's not what it should have been. You'll learn the history of that, but it's actually not the result for everybody involved in this, because there's a twist that you have to learn about. The Trojan horse and a guy that escapes at the very, very end. So welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where these timeless stories reveal truth and wisdom for your journey. I am so excited about this one lesson. We're going to pack a lot in. As your ancient history teacher, I get to take you on the journey to Troy. It's history, it's virtue, and you really wonder about the result of this war. This lesson is just an absolute essential. It's a story centered around a woman named Helen, a powerful city known as Troy, in a massive war that raged for 10 incredibly long and brutal years. This conflict profoundly shapes myths and literature, and even our historical understanding of the Bronze Age. So let's get into lesson number 25 in your ancient history course. We're stepping into the story of the Trojan War to ask some big questions and see how those apply to your journey. So in this lesson, 3 things. Let's learn the beginning. How did it start? Where did this conflict come from? Helen, envy, pride. Second, we will sequence the most famous events from the Trojan War. It's the takeaways, the ending, the 1,000 ships, the Achilles heel, the Trojan horse. So make it all the way to the end, because there's really good, deep meaning there, and you're going to notice it shows up in a lot of places. So first, let's get into the conflict. How did this war start? You're going to be surprised to know that the setting, which of course is Greece, it's Bronze Age, it's 1200 BC, but the conflict starts at a wedding. Not just any wedding. Zeus is inviting everybody. Super epic Greek wedding. It's the wedding of Peleus, a mortal king, and Thetis, a sea nymph, who's the daughter of Zeus. This couple is actually later going to be parents to the great hero Achilles. Just about everybody important is invited to this wedding. It's going to be gigantic. It's going to be the place to be seen and party. And everybody's there. Except we're not going to invite one person, one goddess, the daughter of Ares, the daughter of the god of war. She is the goddess of discord and strife and chaos. Her name is Eris. She is not fun to have around, so we're not going to invite her. When she realizes this, what do you think she's going to do? What would you do? I know you would act virtuously, but you probably came up with a couple of non-virtuous ways to get back at everybody. Well, that's what Eris does. Her jealousy, her envy, and she's the goddess of strife anyway. So she's going to cause maximum disruption. She's going to stir things up. She makes a golden apple. What? A golden apple? It's a party favor. She's going to launch this golden apple. It's going to land perfectly at the prize table, the banquet table, where everybody's going to see it. It's like a party favor, but it has an inscription on it. It's a label that says, "To the fairest of them all, to the most beautiful." So at this wedding, remember, everybody is there, all the fancy people, all the Olympian gods and goddesses, lots of kings and queens, and everyone is there to be seen. So when the crowd realizes this golden apple is for the fairest of them all, there's a lot of attention. And 3 goddesses immediately start to squabble how they should be awarded the apple. They should be awarded the golden apple like a party favor and to be known as the fairest of them all. 3 goddesses in conflict because they all want the golden apple. They all want to be known as the fairest of them all. The 3 goddesses are Hera, wife of Zeus, Athena, goddess of wisdom and victory in battle, and Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. They start squabbling, they're arguing, it's a sideshow distraction, and Zeus is approached. Hey, you're the Olympian king. Why don't you award the golden apple to one of the 3 of us? Who's it going to be? And Zeus is like, I'm not going to touch that. He would obviously make 2 of them extremely mad and 1 would be happy. So he is very clever, being the king, he's the king of the Olympian gods. And he looks around at some of the mortals. We've got some of the dignitaries, the kings, the royalty from all kinds of fancy city-states like Sparta and Mycenae and Troy. Troy is an up-and-coming city-state. They'd love to trade back and forth across the Aegean Sea with the Greeks and the Trojans, and King Priam is there and his son Paris. Paris, he's an up-and-coming prince. Zeus goes over to Paris and he says, would you be the judge? Would you award the golden apple to one of these 3 ladies? And Paris thinks to himself, what could possibly go wrong? This sounds like fun. I could kind of level up my credibility. I'm an up-and-coming prince. And then he comes up with an even better idea. He could sort of ask for bribes. He goes over to Hera. He says, what have you got for me if I give you the golden apple? And Hera says, hey, I'm goddess of royal power. I'll make sure that you have power and authority. And Paris is like, okay, that's good. But he already has that. He's in the royal family, but he'll think about it. He goes over to Athena. Hey, if I give you the golden apple, what would you give me? Athena offers him victory in battle. And Paris likes that idea, but he thinks about his brother Hector and how amazing, and he's a hero and he never loses, and he thinks he already has a lot of victory in battle. But that's a nice offer. He'll think about it. He goes to Aphrodite. He says, Aphrodite, if I award you the golden apple, what would you give me? Aphrodite's the goddess of love and beauty. And she looks at Paris and offers him something that a young prince needs above everything else. And what is it? Love. She promises to find him the best and most beautiful woman to be his wife, so that in the future his royal power and his victories in battle will be joined by this beautiful queen. Who do you think's going to win? The judgment of Paris is handed down and Aphrodite wins. So Aphrodite will come good on this promise at some point. But the party's over, the wedding, everybody goes home. Paris and his family, at a later time, Paris and his family travel over to Greece for trade negotiations. They love to trade across the Aegean Sea. They go to Sparta. King Menelaus is there with his brother, King Agamemnon. Agamemnon is the king of Mycenae. And they discuss trade routes and shipping, all of that trade stuff. And in comes Menelaus' wife, Helen. She's gorgeous. And when she greets all the guests, in the act of hospitality, it's very important to treat your guests well. Helen wants to make sure the guests are comfortable. And when Paris sees Helen, he can only think of one thing: the promise that Aphrodite had made. He wants Helen to be his wife. Not long after this trade meeting they were having, King Menelaus is away from the palace. Paris sneaks over to see Helen in the palace. He signals out to Aphrodite to say it's time to make good on this promise. Would you send that bow and arrow guy to shoot a love arrow? Have you ever seen that? Like usually people say Cupid. That's the Roman name, but this is Eros, the Greek name. And so Aphrodite's like, yes, I make good on this promise. So Aphrodite gets Eros to pull back his bow and let his arrow go straight to the lover's hearts. Helen will have a spell cast over her, and she will fall madly and deeply in love with Paris. So Paris and Helen get on a ship, and they sail around the Aegean Sea, and they go back to Troy to live happily ever after. No, because when Menelaus comes back and he finds out that his wife is missing and that his guest had committed a terrible act of betrayal. Hospitality is a two-way virtue, and this guest has stolen his wife. His fury, his anger was immense. He calls up his brother Agamemnon. He says, we cannot stand for this, and we have got to do something. Now let's pause for a second. This is just a dispute between Sparta and Troy, right? Why would he involve other city-states? Well, maybe he would call his brother, but his brother says, do you remember what happened before you married Helen? Let's do a flashback. Helen was so beautiful, and she was living in the palace of King Tyndareus. King Tyndareus knew that she was beautiful, and she knew men might fight over her. So before she was married, all of the suitors, those are the men who wanted to marry her, they're competing, they're selling themselves, they're trying to tell King Tyndareus that they would be the best. These suitors had to promise, they had to make a pact. The pact was that whoever doesn't marry Helen, they must unite to defend Helen. So when Menelaus was awarded the hand of Helen in marriage, all the other suitors had to agree, well, they already had agreed to defend Helen. But this would never really matter because Sparta and King Menelaus and all the Greeks, they're pretty much friends, right? They're on the same team. Well, here we are. We have all the Greeks coming together because of the pact that they made. And they are now going to get onto 1,000 ships. 1,000 ships. Helen's face. Helen was so beautiful, she has a face that launched 1,000 ships. Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever heard that Helen has a face that launched 1,000 ships? It's an idiom now. It's a saying. It's a way to show great beauty that 1,000 ships would be launched. Well, this is the invasion. We're now getting into the events of the war. So in the second segment, we are now getting into the events of the war, and 1,000 ships are sailing off from Greece with all the Greeks, all the men, all the suitors, all the warriors. They're united to go and rescue Helen. They're sailing off to Troy. 1,000 ships versus one city-state? You got to think that this is a huge lopsided advantage for the Greeks. But when they arrive, they see massive, tall walls, which reminds me of the first time I went to Troy. And I saw the massive, tall walls myself in the archaeological sites. The tour guide showed us that it would have been covered with smooth stones. You can't climb the wall. Siege towers had not been invented yet, so you can't start trying to undermine or destroy the walls without people on top of the walls dumping boiling oil on you. This is called siege warfare. It's going to take a really long time to find a way to take down Troy's walls. When you visit this place, you'll see the walls. You'll also look across the countryside. You'll look out into the sea, and you'll see what a beautiful place this is, but also what a valuable place. Troy has incredible geography. And the Greeks are going to want to control this place, right? Could the war just really be about trade and control? Or is it really about this love story? But when you see how close it is to trade routes, especially the Dardanelles or the Bosphorus Strait. If you could control this area, you could collect a lot of taxes and fees, and it's land routes as well as sea routes. And plus, look at all the fertile land that's just right outside the Trojan walls. So this place is an interesting site for a civilization, and naturally there'd be a lot of fights over control of this area. Well, here we are in the Trojan War, the beginning of the Greek siege. It will take 10 years, and the walls are tall. How are we going to get inside this city? Heroes. This story is about heroes, some really great names. And you probably know the most famous hero, Achilles. Achilles, he had that incredible armor that Hephaestus had forged. The Roman name was Vulcan. So he has incredible armor. He's an amazing fighter. He never loses. But Achilles is not just an ordinary mortal fighter with great armor and good abilities. He's actually somebody that got a special power. When his mom Thetis dipped him in the river Styx, received a magical coating where he could not be harmed. But think for a second that Thetis grabbed him by the ankles when she dipped him into the river, which means his ankles didn't actually get dipped. If there's a magical coating placed over him and he is invulnerable, he's invincible, maybe not on his ankles or just above the ankle. Do you know what that body part is called just above your ankle? It's your Achilles tendon, your Achilles heel. Achilles is invincible for the most part, but so also are the Trojan walls. The walls are tall. And we need more heroes, because if we're going to be camping out on the beaches for 10 long years, it's going to get kind of boring. These heroes have to have some fights. You know, let's have some one-on-one battles. Let's have different skirmishes. You can't really starve these people out because it's such an amazing site. They've got a water source inside. They've got tunnels to get outside. 10 years is going to take a lot of patience on the part of the Greeks, because the Trojans, they know they can wait them out. 10 years. Imagine the entire decade. You're camped out on the beach. You're trying to break through the tall walls. The Greeks had more heroes. Agamemnon's a hero. He actually doesn't get along really well with Achilles. That could matter. There's Ajax, who's like just a beast. He's powerful. There's Odysseus, who's really smart. There's Diomedes of Argos, who's really good with the bow and arrow. We've got Patroclus, who is the sidekick buddy of Achilles. So the Greek team is loaded, and they're there for glory. They know that they will have huge benefits if they can win this big game. But on the Trojan side, the city is also pretty well stacked. Even if they're outnumbered, they've got tall walls, and they've got Hector. Their number one top hero is Hector. Hector could go up against Achilles. Oh, I bet he does. Hector has his little brother, Paris, who we've already heard about, actually is the reason for this conflict to begin with. King Priam, Queen Hecuba, the parents of Hector and Paris. Hector has a heart and soul for the city. He is the heart and soul of the Trojan defense. He is dedicated, loyal. He has duty and honor. He fights with courage and skill, not for the personal glory and kleos that we see in the Greeks. I mean, he's got the home team advantage, and he is defending his home. Think about what that's like for you to defend your own people. Hector is someone that is admired and respected and appreciated, and he knew the immense stakes involved. It's the survival of his people. So as the war drags on and there's lots of battles, lots of heroes, lots of heartbreaking losses. We're going to skip ahead to the turning point when things dramatically shift. Now, by the way, are you wondering why I'm telling you so many kind of mythical stories? What's supposed to be a history lesson? Because this is a history course. We have dipped into the Iliad. The Iliad by Homer. Have you heard of that? It's a classic tale. It's an epic poem, and I really encourage you to read it. So yeah, we're dipping in a little bit to kind of see what history comes out of this and what we can learn from these virtuous struggles we see in some of the people. Like in this turning point now, starts with a conflict between Agamemnon and Achilles. They're supposed to be two of the great leaders of the Greeks, but Achilles is angry. He feels disrespected by Agamemnon over some issues and war prizes and honor and glory. So he says, you know what? I'm not fighting anymore. I'm just going to wait in my tent until you can figure this thing out. He tells Agamemnon that he's not going to let his elite warriors, the Myrmidons, he doesn't get his way. He's quitting. Without Achilles, his leadership, his skill, his invincibility, his Myrmidons fighters, the Trojans, are inspired by Hector's leadership, who takes advantage of this opportunity, who starts to push the Greeks back relentlessly, even threatening to burn their ships that are drawn up on the beach. That would be the Greeks' only way home. It's becoming desperate for the Greeks at this point. But seeing this problem is Achilles' friend, Patroclus, companion. They were very close buddies. And Patroclus is younger. He can't stand to watch the setbacks that the Greeks are having. And Achilles seems to not really be worried about it. Patroclus says, give me your armor. I will go out there and fight and lead our troops. So when he puts on the armor of Achilles, he actually looks like Achilles. You know, armor kind of covers you up mostly. It's really fancy armor. Patroclus hopes it's really going to help, maybe fool the Trojans into thinking that it was Achilles returning, and then the Greeks would be rallied, kind of push back the Trojans. Patroclus fights with great courage, and he drives Trojans back, and he protects the ships. They're not going to get burned now. But while he wears Achilles' armor, you know that he doesn't actually have the real protection that Achilles was, dipped into the magic coating. Goes out there and he faces who he believes is Achilles. He faces with courage and thinking about his people. He attacks, he fights and defeats Patroclus. He kills him. Patroclus is dead. And when the news reaches Achilles that Hector had killed his beloved friend Patroclus, his grief was overwhelming, and it instantly transformed into what? How do you think Achilles, now that you know just a little bit, we're barely scratching the surface on what you could know about Achilles, but it's speaking into a little bit of how you might react. How would you react if your best friend, best buddy is now defeated? Do you want to go after the guy that did it? Hector? Achilles is transformed into a burning, all-consuming, rageful fighter. He gives up his feud with Agamemnon now because he's got something bigger. He rejoins the battle. He's now driven by one singular purpose: revenge. Revenge against Hector. The final confrontation between these two greatest warriors of this age, the unstoppable Achilles and the very noble defender Hector. It's one of the most famous and tragic duels in all of Western literature. The result of this face-off, you might predict. Do you know who's going to win this epic face-off between Hector and Achilles? With all of Hector's people watching, his family, the Trojans, they admire and respect his courage. But despite Hector's immense courage, despite his deep love for his city and his family, and his skill as a warrior, he ultimately is no match to the divinely favored And enraged Achilles kills Hector. In someone of this status, Hector's status, he should have a really amazing funeral. His beloved family would want his body and show proper respect in his death, but Achilles is not done yet. Achilles wants to degrade the body. He ties it to the back of his chariot. He drags it around and rides his chariot, and the body is disrespected, but the gods of Mount Olympus are disrespected at this point. The family is horrified, but now Achilles and his, what do you call this? What do you call the way he's acting right now? You know, he won the battle. Like in a big game, you win the big game. You don't go out there and just pummel and degrade and mock and disrespect the team that you beat. Nowadays, coaches ensure that you say, good game, good game. Hector is doing an unthinkable thing, and the gods are so mad, they actually put protection around Hector's body, so it's not going to get beat up and mutilated in this kind of rage and disrespect. But you must put yourself in the shoes of his father, King Priam, the most important person, the leader of the city of Troy. He has to sneak out and go down to see Achilles at the camp out and beg to get the body returned. A proper burial would be possible. Imagine what that would be like for a father, for a king. And it's a time when it kind of exposes Achilles is grief-stricken also after losing Patroclus. Look, we could go on and on and on. This battle, this 10-year siege, with a turning point like this, Achilles has killed Hector. Are we ready for a peace treaty? Are we ready for a turning point? Well, no. As fighting continues, young Paris now, with excellent archer skills, he sees an opportunity, he takes a shot, and he's shooting his arrow at Achilles. And normally you would think that the arrow would, be a headshot and for the kill. But we know that Achilles actually has been dipped in the river Styx. But Apollo, remember the gods were angry at what Achilles had done? Apollo is aware of his Achilles heel. Apollo is angered by Achilles' hubris, behavior, his pride, his excessive pride. Apollo is going to guide that arrow that Paris shoots, and he's going to help it be aimed down to the ankle, to the Achilles heel, because he knows it's his only point of vulnerability, the Achilles heel, the point of vulnerability. And Paris's arrow hits him in the only place that would actually kill him, and Achilles is now dead. Are we done fighting yet? Well, I've skipped over a lot of material. Again, I encourage you to enjoy the Illiad for a really full version of everything. But we need to get to this Trojan Horse part, how the war actually ends, and how the Trojan Horse is such an important idiom now, and it means something. Let's talk about the Trojan Horse. Odysseus is now kind of the lead hero, and Odysseus gets help from Athena. Athena is the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of victory in battle, and she gives him some help, and we're going to start to take some wood planks and we're going to start to build a wooden horse. It's hollow, and the trick is it's going to be hollow big enough for like dozens of the best Greek fighters. So some of those guys I mentioned, Diomedes is going to be inside, Odysseus will be inside, and they're going to hide. The horse, the Trojan horse, is actually going to be a gift It would be like a gift to honor Poseidon. We're going to wheel the wooden horse up to the gates. We're going to say that we're honoring you guys, and we're going to sail off. They actually loaded their ships. The Greeks actually made it look like they're leaving. They're not only leaving a gift and an honor to the gods, like a trophy that would honor Poseidon, but they're also leaving the battlefield. They packed up their camps and they're leaving. And the Trojan horse is wheeled up and sitting outside the tall walls. The tall walls. That's how we got into this mess. Really, 10 years. Coming out of the tall walls are a bunch of Trojans to inspect this gift. The Greeks were bearing gifts, and one priestess, Cassandra, comes out there, and she's actually got the gift of prophecy, but she's got a curse that nobody will ever believe her. Cassandra calls it out. She's like, this is a trap. There's a bunch of Greek guys hiding in there. Don't accept this gift. And because nobody believes her, on to the next. A priest and his sons are coming out here, and they're like, I don't think this is good. And the priest says, beware, Greeks bearing gifts. And then a sea monster comes up out of the sea and gobbles up him and his sons. Now, what does that mean? What would that mean to you? Is that a sign that you should accept the gift? But think about how tired everybody is. Think about how this 10-year war and everybody's locked inside the tall walls. Despite these lingering doubts and warnings, Trojans were convinced that this horse is a sign. It's a religious offering. And if they would just bring it inside their tall walls, they could party and celebrate the end of the war. They believed this is it. The Greeks have left. They've sailed away on their 1,000 ships, and they've won this war. How do you get a wooden horse inside your tall walls? They've got to dismantle the protection, the gates. They've got to wheel that thing inside. They've got to light the fires of party. They have revelry. Like that's a cookout with some extra adult beverages. So they would have brought out the best wine and party late into the night. And people are outside. They're just so happy that this 10-year war is over. They're not really guarding the tall walls anymore. And remember that Greeks are hiding inside the Trojan horse. So when the revelry and the Trojans are now kind of wiped out for the night, they're asleep, they're groggy, they're not on guard. Out of the Trojan horse pops Odysseus and Diomedes and a bunch of other Greeks that are ready to start fighting, and they signal, and the Greeks who had sailed away, they came right back. They were faking it. And now Troy was completely caught by surprise. It's now a scene of fire, destruction, chaos, violence. The city is ruthlessly plundered. It's set on fire. The once glorious city of Troy, which had withstood with their tall walls in this decade of open warfare, is now in one night destroyed. Not everyone is destroyed, because when Diomedes of Argos, that really skilled archer, taking shots at people, he has a chance to take a shot at a young prince named Aeneas. He is carrying his father, Anchises, on his back. And he's got his wife and his child. He's trying to escape like other people. Diomedes does not shoot him. Why is that? What do you see in a young prince carrying his father? His father's an invalid. He can't even walk. And if you're carrying an old man on your back, you're putting yourself in great danger. Diomedes honors and respects this guy for his courage and his loyalty, showing honor to his father. Aeneas gets to escape. And when I told you the confusion, like you win the war, but you're not really feeling like a victor, That's about a Greek Dark Age that's about to happen. And you'll hear that referenced in some other stories. But what you're also going to hear is what happens later to Aeneas. The one Trojan who escapes sails off. He will eventually go to central Italy, where he starts a group of people called the Latins. And one of the kingdoms that started is called Rome. The takeaways. What do you always need to remember about this Trojan War history and the story, and how we've woven in a lot of myths into actual places like Troy and Sparta and Mycenae? The takeaways. Envy and jealousy can start wars. The golden apple, the goddess of discord. How about that old saying, Helen was so beautiful she had a face that launched 1,000 ships? And then think about the 10-year siege and how invading and laying siege on a tough city like Troy with their tall walls, how exhausting that is, and how it almost seems futile. And when you learn more about this dark age that happens after winning the war, you'll see it's a little bit of a mystery why Greece didn't have total domination after defeating this rival city of Troy. Do you know what your Achilles heel is? You need to know that Achilles heel, like, I know that if you hit the back of your ankle, it hurts. It's your Achilles heel, your Achilles tendon, but you know now that it means your weak point, your point of vulnerability. And for Achilles, his Achilles heel was his pride and hubris, in addition to his actual Achilles heel. The Trojan horse. You've got to take away an understanding of the Trojan horse. It's a surprise. It's more than it seems. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. That's the reference to this. But now you need to know that it's a trick. And it's actually disrespecting the gods, because it was said to be a gift to the gods. And so that may come back and resurface again, because the final takeaway is Aeneas, the young prince who escaped the city of Troy with duty and honor, showing respect to his father, saving his dad, carrying him out, and at great risk, sacrifice. So that should mean something in the future, and it will. Because that takeaway we will bring up again as we learn the kingdoms of Rome. This remains one of the most fun and interesting and enduring stories. I love the Trojan War and visiting there at the archaeological site. The Trojan War story remains one of the most enduring classical kingdom stories. It's from the Bronze Age, it's powerful cities and great Greek heroes. It's a terrible cost of pride and vengeance and envy. It's a story you can dig deeper and enjoy in the Illiad and then the Odyssey. The Odyssey by Homer is the story of Odysseus trying to get home. And the insights we get, not just to learn about the Greeks and their values and their beliefs and religious understanding of the gods, but it's also our journey. We see ourselves in this. I want you right now to type in to the comments, where was the most interesting thing? And what did you see about yourself? Like, have you been in a situation like this? Whether it's sports or family relationships, your academics, what is it you liked or found surprising in the story? Just leave it in the comments. It's really fun for us to see what other people are learning. I love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this history lesson, be sure to visit classicalkingdoms.com for the full course and all the enhancements. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the notifications and the like button, and thank you. Thank you for taking the time to learn something that really matters in all of history, and that includes your history. It's some classical truth for your journey, because kingdoms rise and fall, power fades, but virtue endures.